All right, guys. So before I get started on this, I do just want to call out, as I normally do, there are a million different ways to do ads. Everybody does them differently, it seems like. Right? There are going to be a ton of gurus out there that tell you their way is the only way, their way is the best way. What I found, it's pretty inconsistent. There are a lot of different ways that I do ads myself, and for some products it works. For other products, I got to try something else and mix it up. For some stores, I have to build a brand, spend more time. Other stores and brands and items, I just sometimes even get lucky. It goes viral, right? So there's always different ways to do it. My main goal with this is just to show you different ways, but also to have you understand what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me, right? So I really want to make sure I'm instilling that message. And that's one of the reasons I hate going through gurus, and I don't recommend many courses. If a course has come out, I guarantee you I bought it. Even if it's not under my real name, I guarantee you I probably bought the course if you tell me about it, because I love taking them in hopes that I'll learn at least one new thing. And unfortunately, from every course that I've taken, I haven't learned, I really haven't felt like it was worth the money, right? And I feel like for a new person, yes, they'd all help you get started. I have learned new things in some of the courses, which again makes it worthwhile for me. But, there are times where I'm dropping hundreds of dollars, and unfortunately, there just is not a lot of growth or a lot of value being offered, or different opinions and different strategies for doing things. And a lot of the gurus that are out there teaching these courses, they don't either have results themselves that are that huge, right? Most of their income comes from the courses, or they the way that they're teaching doesn't work for all their students. So I'm offering this for free. With the freeness and how it's being free, that comes with the expectation that obviously there's different ways to do things, right? And what I'm showing you here might not work, and for some of you it might increase your money by tenfold. The way that I'm going to show you today is going through audience insights, which is actually a way that's been pretty well forgotten since they've changed the way that they do relevance and affinity scores with Facebook advertising. My next video will be on doing it directly in the ad creation itself, which I'm also excited to go over with you in terms of targeting. Both are fantastic, but both are also very, very different. Now, I also want to call out as we go through this, one common mistake. A general store and a niche store are completely different things, as is a category, right? And a category is not a word that you're going to find used very often, but it's one that I want to use to determine what that middle ground is, right? So a general store would be I have a bunch of different items from all over the place. A category store would be I'm selling sunglasses, I am selling dog stuff, I'm selling stuff for animals. And a niche store would be I'm selling for pit bulls, I'm selling for people that have Siberian Huskies. I'm really niching down and saying I'm selling for nurses who have Siberian Huskies, right? That's a niche store. Dogs is not. Dogs is a category. But we have to recognize what those categories are before we can move further into it. So, without further ado, I'll go ahead and take a look at this. So this is Audience Insights. How I got here is on the top left corner in your business Facebook Ads Manager. You click on the little folder, you go to All Tools, under Plan, you click on Audience Insights, and you will be taken here. Now, as you look at this, first thing on the left you're going to notice is country. So, the three most recommended countries that I suggest you sell in: 1, United States; 2, Canada; 3, United Kingdom, England, London, for those of you who don't know. I prefer the United States and to sell in the United States. 1, I'm from the United States, so I'm admittedly a little biased. But on the other side of things as well, the United States offers a buying group that is very large, right? We love buying cool stuff, new stuff, dumb stuff, right? We buy all sorts of stuff. In addition, the ad spends tend to be typically a little bit lower, especially if you're not around holiday season. And plus, most suppliers, as you probably recognize, use ePacket. ePacket is very consistent when it comes to suppliers, or being able to find suppliers that use ePacket to deliver to the United States. And that gives you the ability to really have faster shipping times of 2 to 3 week averages to get items to your customers, and have them have the ability to be able to track those. Not as common, although it does exist. It's not as common or consistent when it comes to other countries, even as the ones such as Canada and UK, for ePacket to always be delivered there. In addition, once the e-packet reaches the United States, it's handled by a mail carrier that is a federal one for us, USPS, and from there, customers have pretty easy and viable tracking options to determine where it is. So I do suggest the United States. I'm going to use it for this example. So I have that here. Next, we have age and gender, and I'm going to leave that blank just for now. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and reset that as well. Next, we have interest. So for interest, we want to start broad, and then we want to work our way down. So what we're going to start with broad is we're going to do pit bulls for this example. People that love pit bulls or have pit bulls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start very broad, like I talked about, a category, right? So a category that pit bulls fall into is dogs. So let's go ahead and type in dogs. Perfect. Got the first one. Select that. And it updates our options a little bit. As we wait for it to load, we can see, though, new audience right up here, dogs, 40 to 45 million monthly active people. That's way too big. So one very, very common, I would say, debate that people run into when doing these type of ads is you should hyper target, right? Hyper targeting leaves you with 800,000 people that you're targeting, and that's going to give you the audience size that you need. There's other people that say go for 40 million. I personally suggest going for anywhere between 2 to 14 million. My sweet spot has always been 4 to 8 million. Now, I'm not saying the other ways don't work. I just know on a very consistent basis, which a lot of stuff isn't always consistent. For me, consistently, that's what made me my 1 to 1.5 million last year, and that's what's on track to make me hopefully 2 million in revenue. That's obviously not profit, but revenue from e-com this year after Q4 is finished. And those are the audience sizes I stick with. I know there's tons of people making good money going with hyper targeting and whatnot. So it's all, I guess, really the teachings, but this is the one that's worked the best for me. Either way, so as I scroll down, you're going to see there's a couple of different page likes and whatnot, but nothing really that's too specific, right? Nothing that really tells out on pit bulls. We have I Heart Dogs. There's a good relevance, pretty good audience size on Facebook. And there's a good affinity score. Affinity score is really how closely related do the people match from this group to the people that you're trying to target. The higher the affinity score, the better. The lower, the least likely you want to use them. So now we have a pretty generic and large category in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to specify just a little bit more. So, like I said, dogs. Now we're looking for pit bulls. So we updated our audience a little bit. I'm not sure actually what that pit bull audience size was, so I'm going to type it in one more time. So I had American Pit Bull Terrier. That's obviously not the one I want. I just want to go for a basic Pit Bull. You could, obviously, if you're trying to target for American Pit Bull Terriers. I'm just going to go with American Pit Bulls. Just regular Pit Bulls. So as I did that, having regular dogs in there didn't help me too much. Sometimes you can keep it in there and get relevant pages that are down here to pit bulls. In that case, it didn't help me. If it did, you would keep it and then later delete it. For right now, it didn't, so I just deleted it and I left pit bull under interest. So as I go through, I'm going to go ahead and click on page likes, which I'm already on right now, and scroll down. This is not something you want to guess. You want to use real data to figure out your audience. So as we can see here, we have a couple different pages that are related to pit bulls. I love my pit bull. Pretty big audience. Look at that affinity score, 193x. That's crazy. Pit bulls, buyable, positive pit bull. There's a ton of pit bull pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to interest where I typed in pit bull. I'm going to start typing some of these in. I love my pit bull. Now something to consider, just because they're down here doesn't mean it's going to work up here. So if you're typing in it doesn't fit, no big deal. Delete it, move on to the next one. The positive pit bull, boom. pit bulls and parolees. I don't know if that's relevant to us or not. I want to double check. So what I'm going to do is instead of just typing it in and ignoring it, I'm going to hover over the blue and open up that tab and check on that. So this seems to be a TV show, not really necessarily related to people that own pit bulls. Not that it's not related to pit bulls, but probably not the people that have pit bulls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this and actually get rid of that one. Again, just because it's down here doesn't necessarily mean it's related. So you always want to double check and make sure it is relevant. Again, like we have some pretty good affinity scores on these, but I wouldn't say they're all relevant to what we're looking for. So what we can also do is look up these categories up here. Are there any categories that work for us? Right? There's pet store called pit bulls. We only have pit bulls, so maybe that's something that we can type in. Yes, we can. Boom. And as we're doing this, these things are automatically updating, so giving us more and more information that we can look at. Let's click more. Let's see. Okay, I think these are all pretty relevant for what we got. As we go down here, we can look at some of these again. Looks like we got some of these typed in. So we're pretty good. And look at that. We happen to fall right between our sweet spot. If you wanted to really narrow down, you could probably get rid of pit bull, but we're going to go ahead and leave that. Actually, let's just check to see what the size would be. Yeah, that's way too small, in my opinion. So we're going to leave pit bull. You can also just type things in, right? We got pit bull. Now, the reason you don't really want to type in things just on a whim, as I suggested earlier, is because these aren't pages you can necessarily check out as easily. There's no affinity score data backing them up, so it's nothing that Facebook is verifying. So of course, you can type in whatever you want down here. I will type them in just to check them and see how they affect my audience, maybe see how they affect some of the page likes and affinity scores. But I wouldn't research them I wouldn't put them in there, without really researching them first. Some other ways to get audiences is you could just go straight over to Google. Look up favorite pit bull websites. Pitbulllovers.com, I think that was one of them. Best Friend's pretty generic. American Pit Bull Foundation, so maybe we can get that one in here. Nope, that's the American Pit Bull Terrier. That's the one we didn't want earlier. Loveabull.org. Boom. Not too big of an audience effect, but it did give us another group to target. Nothing too much change down here. All right, so that's one way you can do it. Another person or another type of thing you can look up are different blogs, right? Look up bloggers that have pit bull. So pit bull blogs. My pit bull friend. I don't know if that's going to fall on here. My pit bull's family, obviously. So going through different blogs, looking at different magazines, looking at pit bull stores, right? The list goes on and on of different ways to research. As if you don't know anything else, one of the greatest things that we have on this world is Google and the ability to Google things and basically have knowledge whenever we want. Not all of it's always accurate, but it's still great to have. All right, so we can type in different things here. I'm pretty happy with this, actually. We're narrowed down the pit bulls. We have a pretty good audience size. So just to double check now, what I'm going to do is go to demographics. I want to try to get this to around 4 million, just because that's my goal. So these numbers actually aren't too bad, but we can see there's a big drop off at 65 plus. And really these numbers aren't too great as you get higher, but they're not too bad. And when you're looking at suggesting or changing, so I'm going to try 18. Yeah, I'm going to go to 20. So when you're looking at age ranges, obviously there's 20-year-olds with credit cards. There's 20-year-olds with money. There's 18-year-olds with money. There's 18-year-olds with credit cards. Unfortunately, a majority don't have them. Now, I suggest everyone have a credit card, but that's a different conversation for a different day. right? We really want to target who are the people that are going to be buying and follow the analytics. So I usually start my age range unless it really is specific to people that are 18 or 19, or I feel like it's something that they think is cool and impulse buy to around 20. In this case, we can see there is still decent percentages that we can always split test or test a little bit later. But for now, these percentages aren't bad. Obviously, a drop off at 64, so we have 64. And the men and women are pretty similar. 17%, 19, 29, 37. So those are pretty close. So I'm actually going to leave all genders selected. Now, some cases where you wouldn't is potentially a nurse, right? So although men and women can be nurses and both sexes can be great nurses, when you're doing targeting, you're probably going to notice if you type in nurses that a majority of women is who you want to target, right? Nothing bashing men that are nurses, but like I said, you want to follow the analytics, you want to follow the data, and most of all, you want to follow the money. And by doing that, what I would do is I'd probably select women, and then that's who I would target. In this case, everything looks good. I didn't get my audience too much smaller, but it still fits where I want to. There's other things that page. You can do people that are not connected to a certain page, right? There are different options, whether you want them connected to a page or not. Different advanced options that you can click on. I frankly usually stay away from those, just because a lot of them are always in testing by Facebook, and we have a pretty good audience here. So this is where I would create my audience off of, and we pretty much, if you're selling a pitbull necklace, pitbull bracelet, anything like that, this is how I would target it. This is the type of thing I would make money on. And then I would follow my consistent strategy. So as you probably know, one of my big strategies, if you've been on any of my calls before, really comes around the ability to do 50-50-50. So when I'm making an ad, I usually always do conversion ads. I stay away from PPE unless I'm trying to get engagement on a post for some reason, which if you're trying to build the page, you might be, but probably not something you're trying to do when you are trying to sell stuff. Same thing with brand awareness, all those things. Go for conversions, right? At the end of the day, conversions are the best converting because that's what they're made for. That's what Facebook wants them to do. When you start off, do view content as a pixel objective when you're making your ad. Get about 50 of those, hopefully with a $5 to $10 budget. The higher the budget, the faster that occurs. But obviously you're spending more money in a quicker amount of time. $5 to $10 budget, running out for 3-4 days. Hopefully within those 3-4 days you should have 50 view contents. If you don't, there's something wrong with your ad copy, there's something wrong with your product, or there's something wrong with your ad audience, right? So you need to go back and retarget. Once those things are fixed, you should get those 50 in probably 3-4 days, which at that point you've only spent maybe $20, $25. You would move it to add to cart. Once you move it to add to cart, you're going to have some abandoned carts in there. You might even have some purchases. Really, it's just building that pixel to see who can we get to add to your cart. Once you get 50 of those, you would then move it to a purchase pixel conversion. And there are going to be people that disagree, that say you should skip one, you should not. I like going through the whole momentum, right? Facebook does it for a reason. That's because Facebook's algorithm that is tied to your pixel wants you to make money. Facebook doesn't want you to lose money. If you're not making sales, you're not going to continue to spend money on Facebook ads, which means you're not going to continue to make them money because you're not making money. So they want you to win, because the more you win, the more money that they make in the back end. So it's really important to me, after even talking with Facebook, which I do quite often, is going through the right process of, here we are with viewing content, here we are now moving on to people that are going to add, and then moving on to purchase. That way Facebook can ensure that they get you the most conversions at the least amount of cost to you, right? Again, the most conversions at the least amount of cost for you. So really make sure you're targeting that way. This is, again, a great way to be able to target. I think it's pretty simple. There's people that jump in and make it way more complicated than it needs to be. This is the Audience Insights. Hopefully this helped you guys. And like I said, the next video we will talk a little bit about how to use just jumping into an ad and how to create an ad from there. Thanks, guys. Hope this helped, and go make some big money.